Okay, good morning class. So today we're looking at, yes? No, I just told the people that was speaking loud enough for me to hear that I wonder if they're getting the maths papers today. No. I have the grade 12s all sorted up. They're writing tomorrow and Monday. So probably after that I'll mark. Okay. Don't ask again. Pleasure. Okay. So we've answered these questions. Okay. But you'll get it before you start finals. Okay. But in the meantime, prepare for your finals. You're writing maths, I think your second paper. Second paper is maths. Maths paper 2, you're writing. No, I'm sitting there. So maths paper 1, you're writing first. Okay. The grade 11s, writing paper 2 first. I like to get my papers at the end. Okay. Because the people always complain about the marking, and the marking takes long, and marking goes quick. I enjoy marking. So the reason why you're not getting your papers yet is not because I don't have lists to mark, but I want to mark. I like marking. It's just that I don't have time now to mark. No. People, yesterday we got up until question 4. Is that correct? Not yesterday, on Tuesday. Okay. So now we are at question 5. Not so? So in question 5 we are told that, I must pull these questions up. Sorry about this now. I do this so that I don't run out of space, but some papers I run out of space. In other papers we must bring it up again, like this. Right, let's do this. First question. We are told that determine the coordinates of A, B, and C. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the calculations here on the side. As we carry on, we will fill the information on the diagram, and we will then remove the calculations again. Why do we do that? So that we can keep the diagram in focus. The diagram can stay, we can see it, okay, instead of scrolling up and down, okay. But in your exam, you don't delete it, no? Please. And only write your answers on the diagram. You're not going to get the marks for it. No? Right, the question 5.1. Unless the question says sketch, then your marks will only be allocated for the sketch. No marks for the calculation. Okay? However, this year your marks, your calculations need to be shown. So question 5.1, determine the coordinates of A, B. What is A? What is B? The x-intercepts of the parabola. I could have gone with the straight line. However, the straight line would only give you A. Since we don't have the equation of that, so it's not going to help us either. Not so. So I must use the equation of the parabola. People see is what? Is the turning point. Also the y-intercept. Not so. So for x-intercept, what do we do? We let y equal to 0. So we got 0 equals x squared minus 4. Difference of two squares is x plus 2, x minus 2. So x plus 2 is equal to 0, x is equal to minus 2. Or x minus 2 is equal to 0, so x is equal to 2. Not so. So what is the coordinates of A? Negative 2 and 0. So I must write it in here. Negative 2 and 0. And B? 2 and 0. So what do you notice? I'm putting it on the graph. I'm populating the diagram. Can you see that, people? Next question. We still need to find C. What is C? Y-intercept. What do we do for y-intercept? Then x equal to 0. This, remember, this is from f, no? It's from f, which is a parabola. So we got f of 0 equals 0 squared minus 4, which is negative 4. Therefore, C is 0 and minus 4. You all okay with that? Alright. Yes? No, you can just write. Okay. What I could have also done here was, instead of doing this, I could have taken the 4 over the equal sign, becomes x squared is equal to 4. Square root thereof. I should not forget plus minus if I introduce square root. X equal to plus minus 2. And then a is equal to 2 and negative 2 and 0, and b is going to be 2 and 3. No? You could have done that as well. Very importantly, I note that a is on the negative part of your x-axis. So it has to be the negative one of the two. Can you see that? No? So don't mix up the sign there. And in 5.2, the question says, determine the equation of the straight line AC. Now to determine the equation of the straight line, what do I need? I need 2 points on the graph. One I need a gradient and a point. One I need the angle of inclination and a point. No? So, do we have 2 points lying on G of x? Yes, I got A and C. I got coordinates of A and C. So let's go with that. So A, which is negative 2 and 0. C, which is 0 and negative 2. So how do you calculate the gradient? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's negative 4 minus 0 over 0 minus minus 2. Remember, if you made this y2, that must be y1, x2, x1. Okay? Or vice versa. No? If you made 0, the first one, then of course, you affect the change accordingly. Okay? So this works out to be negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. Does this make sense that it lies to the left? Yes. The gradient is negative and the graph is decreasing. Can you see that? But negative lies to the left. If it's positive, it will lie to the right. It will be increasing power. Which also confirms that it should be correct. So y is equal to negative 2x plus c. But what is c normally to us? The y-intercept. And the y-intercept here is negative 4. So you see value is negative 4. Now let's say we didn't know that. How would we have calculated c as well? You'll substitute one of the 2 points. Again, that's an x and a y. So 0 is equal to negative 2 times negative 2 plus c. c is the negative 4. So y is equal to negative 2x minus 4. And that is the equation of g of x. Okay, any confusion there? Any confusion, people? No. Am I talking too fast? Too slow? Am I talking too slow? Let's go to the next one. Next question. The next question, we are told determine the equation of the straight line parallel to g of x passing through B. So if lines are parallel, say you put the line by clear. So if lines are parallel, what do we know? Radians are equal. So it's this line we're calculating, but going through B. Can you see that, people? These lines are parallel. So if lines are parallel, gradients are? If lines are parallel, gradients are? Equal. So the gradient of the parallel line to AB is the gradient of AB as well, which is? What's the gradient of the line parallel to, let's say, AB, AC? So what's the gradient of G? We just worked it out. It's negative 2. Not so. So what's my equation? Y is equal to negative 2x plus c. Now to calculate c, I need 1 point on this graph. Do I have a point in this graph? Yes. Which point do we have? We have B. We'll sub B, which is 2 and 0. It's the x and the y. So 0 is equal to negative 2 times 2 plus c. That's negative 4 is 4. Y is equal to negative 2x plus. Does it make sense? Okay? Let's go to the next question. The next question says, determine the length of BD. So if we look at BD, it's 5.4. BD is this length here. Not so. Which is also a y value. Not so. It has a, it will have a, since it's parallel to the y-axis, it will have, if we subtract the two y coordinates of those 2 points, B and D respectively, I will get the length of BD. Not so. What is the coordinates of B? What's the coordinates of B? 2 and 0. Not so. What's the coordinates of D? We know x is 2 years, but y we don't know at this point. Not so. How do I get the corresponding, the y value here for D? You substitute 2 years into the equation of g of x. Not so? Why? Because once we set the x value in, you'll get the y value out. Substitute the y value in, you will get the x value out of that point. Does it make sense? That's how our function works. Put your input in, you get your output. Not so. You put your output, you get your input in. Or out. No? So, since these lying on g of x, so g of 2 is equal to negative 2 times. Remember, g of x is defined as that thing. 2 minus 4, which gives you negative 6. Does it make sense? Yes. As you can see, it's in the fourth quadrant. X is positive, y is negative. Sorry? Absolutely. That makes even more sense. No? But yes, that I made a mistake with calculation. So that's going to give you negative 8. So therefore, what is the length of BD? From 0 to negative 8 is how many units? 8 units. Remember, length is never negative. You will agree with that, people? Thank you, mate. Okay. Let's go to the next question. This question, okay, there's the T, no? Question 5.5, we are told that f of x, wa alaikum salam, how are you? Why so late? Your theory is late. Not you. People, 5.5.1. For which values of x, values of x is f of x less than or equal to 0. What does that mean? It's going to be negative. Or, it means to say, where is f of x below the x-axis? You see anything lower than or below the x-axis? Hello? Why is it late? Oversleep. Okay. You busy with maths last night? Okay, good. Right. So, if it's negative, it's below the x-axis. Okay? If it's positive, it has to be above the x-axis. So if it's less than 0, it's below the x-axis. Yeah, as we know, that's y is equal to 0. That is your x-intercept. So this part here, f of x will be less than 0. And here, if it's positive, it's above the graph, or above the x-axis, or above the y is equal to 0 line. That is more than 0. You guys understand? So this fits in here. You all agree? Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking too much now. Okay. So to answer the question, where is f of x less than or equal to 0? So it's inclusive of. It's from there all the way to b. From A all the way to b. So is this a continuous or a break-in solution? It's a continuous solution. So my solution must be together. Not so. So how do you answer that? So say 5.5.1. For a continuous solution, x has to be greater than -2 but less than 2. Now you see there's an equal sign here. So it's including -2 because at -2 is equal to 0. And at 2 is also equal to 0. Okay, you guys understand? Any confusion? What? Okay. Let's look at the next question. In 5.5.2, let's get the question. The question says, where is f of x? 5.5.2. Where is f of x more than g of x? In other words, where is your f of x on top of the g of x graph? Not so. I'm looking here from the top. Put the eyelashes there, yes? Looking from the top. Which graph is on top? Looking here, looking across. No? There your eye goes. Okay. F must be on top of G, or F must be more than G. Okay, I'm going to take this line off here. Take that one off. So we don't get confused, okay? So, remember, this is your g of x graph, this is your parabola, your straight line. So, is f on top of g here? Yes. Up until A. So, up until and including, up until A, f is on top of g. Not so. What do you notice here? G is on top of f. Not so? So that's not what I'm interested in. Is f on top of g on the side? Yes. So that is also what I'm interested in. You guys understand? So in other words, is that a continuous or a break-in solution? A break-in solution. So in other words, x must go in that direction, and must go in that direction. It's a broken solution. So the solution is going to be a part. Not so. So, what is the value of x here? -2. So we've got x and a -2. Or, what's your x value here? 0. So x at 0. But going in this direction, is this more than or less than? Less than. So in other words, x must be less than -2. Am I going to put the equal sign here? No. There's no equal sign here. So why do you want to put the equal sign? There was an equal sign here. Now to put an equal sign here. Why? Because they're equal to each other at that point. The question is just specifically, where is it? More than. Not more than and equal. On the side here, we say x must be What about 0? X must be more than 0. Got the question? Yes.
You say x is equal to -2.
You put the equal there.
Yeah.
You lose a mark. Okay. Why? Because the question was not for equal as well. It was just more than or less than. Okay. We will just say, oh, this child has an understanding, but she messed it up. Okay. And we must not give you a mark for the wrong answer. Or should we be giving you marks for the wrong answer? Crazy. Otherwise, if we give you the top mark, the certificate for the top mark in maths, aren't you going to feel guilty? Huh? You guys don't have that guilty. No. There's something wrong with you guys. I would say, no, that doesn't belong to me. They gave me marks that I don't deserve. Not you guys.
That's not bad.
Okay. People, let's do the next one. Here we are. The question says, give the range of f of x. People, what is range? What is range? All possible y values. Not so. So looking at the range of this graph, the range of f, does this graph exist at negative infinity? No. Remember when we read domain and range, we always read it from the negative infinity to the positive infinity. So does this graph exist at negative infinity? No. Where does this graph start existing at? Negative 4. Remember, range is y values. No? From negative 4 onwards, the graph exists. Negative 4 onwards. So what do we say for that? Y must be more than negative 4. Just give me a chance. You don't even give me a chance to make a mistake. Relax. So we write y is more than negative 4. Now, does this graph exist at negative 4? Yes. So you must have it equal sign as well. Okay. You guys agree with that? Yeah. It's 5.6, and the last question with regards to this graph, 5.7. It says, for which value or values of x is f of x increasing? So, for increasing and decreasing, it is always where x increases. So you always read it from the negative infinity on your x to the positive infinity. Always from left to right. You always read it in that direction. You all see this color? For those of you looking, the others that's not looking, you can't see. Okay. Right. So is f is the parabola, not some. Is this graph increasing or decreasing? Decreasing. Am I interested in this? No. Where does it start increasing? 0 onwards. Not so. So the graph is increasing from 0 all the way to, not to heaven now, all the way to infinity. Yes. So 5.7. We say x is more than. Can you see? Who can't see? Open your eyes. I'll change the color. Okay. So 5.7. You say you agree that it's increasing there? Yes. Right. So it's increasing for x is more than 0. Not so? You see I'm going to put the equal sign there. Why? Because I put my pen down already. Yes. No, that's not the reason. No. Because, yes, at 0, what happens at 0? It's neither increasing nor decreasing. Can you see that? You grade in at that point is 0. So since the gradient is 0, or the graph is not increasing nor decreasing at 0, I don't put the equal sign. You guys understand? Any confusion? No. What if the question was, what is your minimum value of this graph? What's the minimum value of this graph? Negative 4. Good. What if the question was, what's the coordinates of the turning point? What is the equation of the axis of symmetry? Everybody saying something different. The axis of symmetry is basically the line going through here. What is the equation of the axis of symmetry? X is equal to 0. Don't get upset if any of you said the wrong thing. Right? What if the question was, what is the domain of f of x? X is an element of all domain. What if the question was, what is the equation of the reflection in the y-axis? What's the rule if something is reflected in the y-axis? X becomes negative. I'm just going to go with f, no? Which is the parabola. X becomes negative. So f of x is defined as that there. So we say f of minus x equals y equals negative x all squared minus 4. What's negative x all squared? X squared minus 4. But hang on, that is in the same. So what does that mean? You see that if I reflect this arm in the x-axis, I'm sorry, in the y-axis, it will fall here. Not so. If we take this arm and reflect it in the y-axis, it will become that. So you see, the graph is just flipped exactly on the same place. Therefore, the equation has to be the same. Oh, yes. Makes sense. What if it was the other way around? I'm just messing up this diagram. Oops. No. Right, now let's find where we are first. Is this your paper? That's it. So the next question is, what is the equation if f of x is reflected in the x-axis? What if it's reflected in the x-axis? Y becomes negative. Not so. So if y becomes negative, it's negative y. Remember, this is a y here. Not so. So negative y is equal to x squared minus 4. We divide by negative throughout. Negative x squared plus 4. You guys understand? So if I draw this graph, this will lie approximately there. Going through that point A and going through that point B. That would be your graph. Not so? When we tell you the graph of f is shifting 5 units up, then it becomes f of x, 5 units up, y is equal to x squared minus 4 plus 5, which is x squared plus 1. You all agree with that?
Yeah.
What else can I ask you? So I'll ask you other things as well, but it's not coming to mind. Right. Then, the next question. So it's equation 6.1. We are told, now we're going to financial maths. Okay, we are told that on a certain day the rate between the US dollar and the South African rand was $1 equals 14.71 cents. An HD television costs $500. How much will it cost in rand? So if $1 equals 14.71, then $500. How do we get from 1 to 500? I multiply. Remember, when we're busy with the ratios, we either multiply 45, one of the two. No? So I must multiply 14,71 by 500. So there you go. So 500 multiplied by 14.71 gives us 7,355 rand. Any confusion there? What's happening? Okay, you guys understand? $6.2. 8 years ago, Ms. Gray decided to invest 28,000 rand in the bank account that paid a simple interest of 6.5% per annum. Calculate how much interest Ms. Gray will earn over the 8 years. So what's the simple interest formula? A is equal to P into 1 plus I times D. So your P value is 28,000 into 1 plus 0,065 times 8 gives us what? 42,000. But that's the amount she's going to get at the end. Not so. The question was for the simple interest. So how do we calculate the interest? Because I see how much interest. So the interest will be A minus P, which is 42,560 rand minus 28,000 gives us 14,560. Any confusion here? Now you ask yourself, but all this calculations for 2 marks. You could have used this formula, which was taught you in grade 9, in your happy days, you remember? Yeah, you got all 100% for everything. Your simple interest equals P times R times T over 100. Your principal is 28,000 times your rate, which is 6,5 times your time, which is 8 years over 100. That should have given you 14,560. That's what would have sufficed 2 marks. Not so. Remember, the formula is not given in the exam. So memorize the formula. Yes, Michael?
So, in the middle, so that section that is didn't minus the amount, so just put the
Okay, let's read again. What does it say? Calculate how much interest. So if you're just going to do this part, well, what does this amount give us? That is the total amount that was earned. Not so? So are we supposed to minus it? So the memories? Okay, everybody got the extra marks with not doing the last part. Okay? It's a little bit too late now to go fix it. No? Because? Say?
this section, I think, was similar to in face, and then now that's trying to know, so now I didn't know to do that, so that was the answer.
So you're saying that because the question says here, calculate how much interest, and they didn't subtract it here, you didn't subtract it in your exam. You should lose the mark, man. Because remember, the memo is written by man. Man makes mistakes. And if you make a mistake, it's fine. You just lose 1 mark. Yeah, what's 1 mark between you and I? Now you're going to get 80% of your paper. 90%. How much are you going to get? 100%. You? 99 is fine. No? Right? But yes, in future, what must you do? Subtract. No? Sorry about the wrong answer. How do you say the surname? Skip here. No. Is that right? Right, we just say must, right. Wants to buy a car in 5 years time. Okay. So you want to buy a car in 5 years time? Currently the car costs 125,000. How much will the car cost in 5 years time if the average rate of inflation over the 5 years was 5.5% per annum? Which formula do we use for inflation? A is equal to P into 1 plus I to the exponent n. Currently the car costs 125,000, so 125,000 into 1 plus 0,055 to the exponent 5. That gives us what? 163,370, comma 0, 0. Oh, nothing. Don't need a comma. Not so. All okay with that? No confusion here. 6.5. So San was writing a grade 10 paper, her name came in. You see? You remember? Didn't write this paper. You don't remember. Which year was this? 2019. You were grade 10? So you skipped the question with your name? Oh my word. People, if your name is in that question, get it right. No? Did you get your question right? Think doesn't count, no? But no. Okay, oh yeah, but I didn't mark it. Yes, okay. So I'll mark yours today, you can see. Alright, here we go. So we are told that Sosan buys, oh, you got the Lenovo laptops, but you got the Lenovo tablets, yes. Costing 15,000 rand. Expensive for laptops. But 50,000 is not a lot for you guys. No? Yes, okay. She pays 20% deposit and then takes out a 24-month hire purchase. Okay? The interest rate charge, okay, so it says hire purchase. So what comes to mind here? Simple interest. So the interest rate charge is 12.5% per annum. Simple interest. So they didn't have to say this. Why? Because that's a giveaway already. Okay. Calculate what she will actually pay in total for the Lenovo laptop. So she's paying a deposit of 20%. So the deposit is equal to 15,000 times 20 over 100, which gives us what? Sorry? 3,000 rand. Which means to say the principal or the initial loan amount will be 15,000 minus 3,000, which is 12,000 rand. That's all. Instead of doing that, we could have also said that the principal would have been 15,000 multiplied by 80 over 100, which would have given you 12,000 anyway. Can you see that, people? So instead of working on the deposit first and then subtracting, we could have done it straight. My girl, don't you like your eyes anymore? Huh? What? You do? Now why are you poking your eyes? Sorry? Mistake. What's his name and look after your eyes. Right. So higher purchase simple interest, 24 months is how many years? 2 years. So your simple interest formula, A is equal to P into 1 plus I times N. Your P value is 12,000 rand into 1 plus what? 0.125 times 2 years gives us what? Did you guys do the homework? Yes, that was the answer. Got it wrong. Okay, we'll speak about where you went wrong now. Yes? 17,000? 15,000. Yes? Straight? 15,000. The question says calculate what you will actually pay in total for the laptop. So the total will be your A, which is the amount that needs to be paid after interest, plus your deposit, which is 15,000, plus your deposit of 3,000, which gives you 18,000. Right. Micronation, where did you go wrong?
Oh, so basically, I went wrong with the deposit because I used 3,000 instead of 12,000. It looks like a mistake.
So you put 3,000 in here?
Yes.
Ach nee man, nie so is. Anyone else want to share their mistake? Sorry? Everybody else got it right from the board. Yes, where did you go wrong? Who else got it wrong this side? Yes. You use the 15,000 as your p-value. You must remember that once any deposit is paid, that amount comes off from the cash price. Whatever is left over, that is going to be the loan amount. You understand? Anybody else? Okay. So basically she pays the 3,000 and extra in total. Okay? Because if you look at the total paid and the cash price, there's a 3,000 and shortfall difference. Okay, not shortfall, difference. Right, that brings us to probability, our favorite, no? Okay, we are told a survey was conducted amongst 90 learners. Okay? The survey was conducted amongst 90 learners. So very important. I know already by all these bullet points is going into a Venn diagram. So where does the 90 go? The outside, yes. Sample space. In grade 10 at St. Susie High School, to establish how many of them own the following devices. S is smartphones and T is tablets. So let's say S A sample space. Okay? Drawing this, before I go anywhere, are these events mutually exclusive or not? If I draw it like this. Why? They're inclusive, there's an overlap. Not so. If you have to draw mutually exclusive, that is what it's going to look like. There's no overlap between the two. Okay, you guys agree with that? Okay? So I'm assuming already it's inclusive. Okay? So we have smartphones and we have tablets. Alright. The results were as follows. 8 did not own either smartphone nor a tablet. So where does that 8 go? Outside. Okay. 20 owned both smartphones and a smartphone and a tablet. I know some of you own more than one tablet, no? More than one smartphone also. You guys give for the 8 you don't have. Like, I don't have a tablet. No? So you can give me. I'm joking, I don't. No? Right. People 20 own both. Where does that go? In the middle. Then he says 48 own tablets. So, that T is 48. Which means to say that plus that is 48. Makes sense? So, (48 minus 20 is 28. So 28 owns tablets only. Not so. Then they told you X own a smartphone. So this is X here on the outside. So all of this, that and that adds up to X. So how many will lie here? X minus, because if that whole thing is X, it's going to be X minus 20 will be this value here. Not so? Must restart this program. So this is going to be X minus 20. Are you all okay with that? The question says represent the information on the Venn diagram. Right, we just did. Okay, this is one of those times. Okay, that has nothing to do with the next question. With this question, sorry. So we have drawn the Venn diagram. In 7.1.2, the question says how many learners own only a smartphone? So in other words, we need to calculate that then. X minus 20, not so. So how do we do that calculation? We know that X minus 20 plus 20 plus 28 plus 8 adds up to 90. Not so. So let's take that into account. So it's going to be X minus 20 plus 20 plus 28 plus 8 is equal to 90. That cancels. So X equal to 90 minus 28 minus 8 is what? 50? 54. So in other words, 54 minus 20 is 24. No, 34. Also, what's the question? How many learners own smartphones? Smartphones only. So therefore, 34 learners own smartphones only. You guys understand? Then the last question pertaining the Venn diagram. Calculate the probability. How do you calculate probability? It's number of favorable outcomes over number of possible outcomes. There are 90 students in total. So the possible outcomes is 90 to choose from. Calculate the probability that the learner selected at random own only a smartphone. So that leads into the previous question, not so? Because calculate the probability that the learner selected at random own only a smartphone. So the smartphone only comes in at 34. So it's going to be 34 over 90, which is 17 over 45, which is, now remember they asked you to do decimal places. 0, 38. Now very important here that if you don't answer it in decimal format, you're going to lose a mark. Why? Because what the question explicitly says to do decimal places. You guys understand? Question 7.2. I think that's the last question. Yes? Which also brings us to the end of the lesson almost. There are 4 red sweets, 4 green sweets, and 5 blue sweets in the bag. Okay? So the tree diagram is going to be the better option to draw here. Not so. But some of you, I know, you guys got your own trees in your head. No? So you don't need a tree diagram. No? Some of you are just smart like it. I am not as smart as you guys. Okay? So we got red, green, blue. How many sweets are there in total? 15. So 4 red, 4 out of 15 is red. 6 out of 15 is green. And 5 out of 15 is blue. Not so. We are told if a sweet is taken out of the bag, determine. So your outcomes here is simply red, green and blue. You don't actually need a tree diagram. So I thought they're going to take 2 sweets out. But they're not greedy, so they're only taking 1. Right. Probability that it's blue. 5 out of 50. Which is A third. What does this mean? Not blue. So how many not blue sweets are there? 10 out of 50. Not so? So red is not blue. Green is not blue. Not so? So that's going to give you 2/3. If you add this up, what do you get? 1. And if you add up to 1, what do you also call that? The complement is. Okay. Then you say, what does N stand for? Number. So I don't put it over 50. The number of red union green. So this means O. Or the union of. So red, how many reds are there? 4. How many greens are there? 6, which gives us 10. Do you guys understand? Any confusion here? No. So that brings us to the end of which paper was this? The San Suzy 2019. Okay, this is yeah, without the question on, without the what's name on. Year 2019. So for our next lesson, we're going to look at the 2019 November paper 2. Okay, you guys okay with that? I think some of you are done with that paper already, no? So if you're done, what you can do is, I've sent to the group many papers. No? You can now work through those. And if you feel that you're not at the level yet to work through the papers on your own, at this point we have done 3 videos already. We're busy with the 3rd paper now. No? We've done 2 full papers already. Okay? Paper 1s and paper 2s. So this is the 3rd paper 1 we did now. Watch the videos over and over. You guys know where to find the videos? Who doesn't know? You all know. Okay. So tomorrow's lesson is paper 2. Okay. There's 2 minutes left. You guys can do 2 sums along.